It's rare for just two riders to define an entire era in a sport, but that's exactly what happened in MotoGP with Marc Marquez and Valentino Rossi. These two didn't just dominate the championship, they split fan loyalties, rewrote reputations, and completely changed how people see rivalries in modern racing. And now, in 2025, that old debate is back in the spotlight. Marquez is chasing more records while Rossi remains the ultimate icon. But their falling out may have left a permanent mark on the soul of the sport. To really get it, you have to look past the races and focus on the relationships, the respect that was lost, and the legacies both riders were fighting to protect. After a dominant showing at Brno, Marquez was asked who would make up his dream MotoGP grid. His picks didn't just say something about his idols, they said something about the kind of racer he wanted to become. He named Dani Pedrosa, Jorge Lorenzo, Valentino Rossi, Casey Stoner, Mick Doohan, and himself. 6 legends, all totally unique, and only one of them ever actually beat Marquez to a title. Let's start with the one he's always said had the biggest influence on him, Dani Pedrosa. From 2013 to 2018, they were teammates at Honda. Pedrosa, known for his speed and precise riding, never managed to win a Premier Class World Championship, but Marquez has never held back in praising how much he learned from him. As he told DAZN, quote, "I learned a lot from Dani Pedrosa. He's the one I learned the most from about how to ride a MotoGP bike, what you need to do to go fast. I tried to ride like him, but with more strength and a bit more aggression." That contrast, Pedrosa's finesse versus Marquez's brute force, helped shape the style that came to define Marquez's career. And it's also what made his rivalries so explosive. When it comes to actual titles, only Jorge Lorenzo's beaten Marquez in a season where both were strong contenders. In 2013, Lorenzo pushed Marquez all the way to the final round in Valencia, but the rookie edged him out. In 2014, Marquez dominated. But 2015 was different. That year, Marquez struggled with an unpredictable Honda and made several costly mistakes. Meanwhile, Lorenzo and Rossi were locked in a title fight, and Lorenzo ended up taking the crown. That remains the only full season where Marquez was consistently fast and still lost the championship. Lorenzo never lost his sharpness, but it was their shared dislike for Rossi that twisted the 2015 title race into something far more intense and dragged Marquez into one of the most dramatic rivalries the sport has seen since the days of Biaggi. Funny thing is, it all started so innocently. As a kid, Marc Marquez had posters of Valentino Rossi on his bedroom walls. There's even a well-known photo of a young, wide-eyed Marquez grinning as Rossi autographs a miniature model bike. Just a kid, hoping one day he'd line up on the grid with his hero.
By 2013, that childhood dream of Marquez racing his idol had turned into a full-on battle. At the Qatar Grand Prix, Marquez and Rossi went bar to bar for second place. Rossi came out on top, and Marquez definitely took note. That moment lit the fuse. Over the next few seasons, the tension between them slowly built up. At Misano in 2014, Marquez made a rare mistake, which handed Rossi the win. Then came Argentina in 2015. Marquez tapped the rear of Rossi's bike and went down. A few races later at Assen, they clashed again in the final corner. Rossi ended up riding through the gravel, but still crossed the line first. These moments weren't just random incidents. They were signs of what was coming. It all led to the infamous showdown at Sepang. Rossi was chasing his 10th world title, a historic milestone. Marquez, however, wasn't in the title picture. He'd already dropped too many points earlier in the season. Rossi began to suspect that Marquez was deliberately helping Lorenzo by messing with his races. In Australia, Marquez actually beat Lorenzo, which made things even more confusing, but everything came to a head in Malaysia. During a heated early battle in Sepang, Rossi and Marquez went side by side into turn 14. Rossi ran wide, they made contact, and Marquez went down. What followed was total chaos. Rossi got slapped with a penalty that forced him to start from the back of the grid at the final round in Valencia. Lorenzo had a clean run to the title, and Rossi lost his chance at number 10. But maybe worse than losing the championship, he also lost whatever trust he had in Marquez. That moment changed the tone of MotoGP. Fast forward to 2018 in Argentina. Marquez's bike stalled on the grid. He restarted it the wrong way and got a penalty for it. Then, as he tried to fight back through the field, things got out of hand. He hit Aleix Espargaro and eventually found himself behind Rossi again. In the second to last corner, Marquez went for a hard move, too hard, and Rossi crashed. The aftermath? Absolute firestorm. This is a very bad situation, Rossi said, because he destroyed our sport. He doesn't respect anyone, never has. He went on to accuse Marquez of intentionally messing with other riders, Vinales, Dovizioso, and himself. And today he went straight into 4 riders, Rossi added. He does this on purpose. Marquez defended himself, saying, "I've never intentionally gone after a rider hoping they'd crash. What happened with Valentino was just a mistake. I locked the front. It was the track, not a plan." Intentional or not, the damage was done. Marquez even tried to go to the Yamaha garage afterward to apologize. They told him to leave. And later that year at Misano, in front of the press, Marquez offered a handshake. Rossi refused. From there, their rivalry just went cold. Even with all the drama between them, Marquez and Rossi were rarely on equal footing when it came to chasing titles. They never went head-to-head for a championship in the same season. But when it came to individual races, Rossi definitely held his own. He outdueled Marquez fair and square in several key battles. Qatar 2013, Misano 2014, Argentina 2015, Assen 2015, and Catalonia 2016. These weren't lucky breaks. They were sharp, strategic wins from a rider who'd been racing since Marquez was still in diapers. Still, the numbers are shifting. After his win at Brno in 2025, Marquez now sits at 70 Premier Class victories, just 19 short of Rossi's all-time record. And while Rossi still holds the edge in MotoGP titles with 7, Marquez is chasing his own 7th this season with 10 races still to go. If he pulls it off, the debate over who's the greatest of all time will get even hotter. Marquez also included Casey Stoner and Mick Doohan in his dream lineup, 2 riders who dominated in their eras. Stoner in particular could have changed the entire course of Marquez's career. Back in 2013, Honda actually thought about keeping Stoner and pairing Marquez with him. According to former Honda boss Livio Supo, the original plan was Casey and Mark, and we'd figure out what to do with Danny. But it never happened. Stoner walked away in 2012, frustrated with the politics in the sport, even after winning 2 world titles and racking up 38 wins. A Marquez-Stoner rivalry in the same team garage? Easily one of MotoGP's biggest what-ifs. Then there's Doohan. His 5 straight titles with Honda in the 90s set a standard that Marquez still hasn't topped. Injuries eventually ended both of their dominant runs, but in different ways. And even after stepping away from racing, both continued to influence the sport, either directly or through their legacy. What really sets the Marquez-Rossi feud apart from every other MotoGP rivalry is how deeply it cut into the culture of the sport. It wasn't just about battles on track or points on the board. It came down to clashing philosophies. Old school racing values versus the new guard's aggressive style. Personality versus precision. Loyalty versus pure drive. Marquez started out idolizing Rossi, but once their ambitions clashed, something had to break. What broke was the innocence MotoGP once had. Since that infamous fallout in 2015, the divide among fans has never really healed. Even now, in 2025, crowds still boo when Marquez takes the win.
Every milestone Marquez hits still feels like it happens under Rossi's shadow. MotoGP gained one of its fiercest rivalries through them, but somewhere along the way it lost the lightheartedness that used to define the sport. Now, with 12 races done and Marquez back on top riding the Ducati, it feels like history is coming full circle. If he takes this year's title, and at this point it's looking more and more likely, he'll match Rossi's record of 7 Premier Class championships. By the end of the season, his win tally could realistically reach 75. But here's the bigger question. Does surpassing Rossi's stats mean Marquez has surpassed his legacy? Even Marquez seems unsure about that. In every interview, he still talks about Rossi with respect, calling him one of the greatest. He never claims to be the best himself. Still, the numbers are stacking up in his favor. The truth is, Marquez and Rossi weren't supposed to end up as rivals. Their story had the makings of something poetic. Young fan rises up, challenges his hero, and the torch gets passed. But racing doesn't always follow the fairy tale. Instead of building each other up, their rivalry tore through friendships, split the fan base, and completely changed what it means to chase greatness. Even though Rossi's no longer on the grid, the impact of their clashes still lingers over everything Marquez does. Some rivalries end when the race is over, but theirs, it changed the game entirely.
Marc Marquez teaming up with Ducati was something nobody saw coming. But now, it's rewriting the MotoGP story. As we hit the midpoint of the 2025 season, what once looked like a gamble has turned into pure dominance. But this isn't just about Marquez being a genius on the bike. It's also about how one bold move uncovered years of Ducati shortcomings and flipped the balance of power in MotoGP. Ducati had the tools for years: massive horsepower, crazy top speed, cutting-edge ride height tech, and more rider talent than any other team. Still, they could never quite take down Marc Marquez. Now, it all makes sense. After Marquez clinched his 5th win in a row at Brno, his 8th victory in just 12 races this year, Ducati's general manager Gigi made a surprisingly honest comment. Right there in the paddock, he looked at Marquez and said, "Anyway, I already knew that, but now I understand better why we've struggled to win a championship so far against you." It was a telling moment, not just about how Gigi sees Marquez now, but also about where Ducati kept falling short. For years, Ducati threw everything they had at beating him. They signed Andrea Dovizioso, Jorge Lorenzo, and later put their hopes on Pecco Bagnaia, but none of it worked. Now that Marquez is racing for them, it's clear. They didn't lose because of the bike, they lost because of the rider. That turning point came in 2023. Tired of how things were going with Honda, Marquez made a shocking move. He walked away and chose a seat with Gresini's satellite Ducati team instead of chasing a spot on the factory squad. That choice came at a cost, mostly for Fabio Di Giannantonio. The young Italian had just bought a new house, thinking his place on the grid was safe. Suddenly, he was left out. His manager, Diego Tavano, said it felt like being stranded. But Di Giannantonio didn't give up. He fought back, grabbed a breakout podium at Phillip Island, and shocked everyone with his first win in Qatar. It saved his career. He secured a ride with VR46 for 2025, and funny enough, he'll be on the same spec Ducati as Marquez. Later, Di Giannantonio opened up about what that time was like. "I'm really stubborn. I always try to bet on myself, to give myself an extra challenge. I was in limbo back then. I could have played it safe and skipped buying the house. Even Diego warned me. But I liked that house, and I told myself I'll buy it and I'll figure it out. I can't say that's why I won, but maybe it helped." Now, as the summer break begins, Di Giannantonio is sitting 5th in the standings, and there's already talk that Ducati might see him as a possible factory teammate for Marquez by 2027. That's how quickly things shift in MotoGP. Brno was supposed to be where Ducati finally felt the heat, not just from Marquez's competition, but from the challenge of the track itself. The resurfaced, ultra-grippy Brno circuit had been off the calendar for 5 years, and when it came back, it shook things up. Ducati's usual edge in data was gone, and the weaknesses of the GP25 were laid bare. Pecco Bagnaia was straightforward in his take. "Marc made a huge difference compared to the rest," he said. "I worked hard to close the gap, but he was the one making the difference. This time, it's true, our bike wasn't the best. He was." But it wasn't just Pecco who struggled. Di Giannantonio couldn't recover after getting pushed back through the field, and Alex Marquez made some rare mistakes trying to pass Juan Mir. Normally, Ducati's strength lies in their data-heavy lineup, but at Brno, they looked lost, except for one man. Marquez explained that the high-grip surface caused the rear tyre to push the front a lot, and admitted the team didn't have time to figure out a proper fix. His answer?
The rider has to adapt, and that's exactly what he did. While Ducati's factory squad scrambled for answers, Marquez went out and secured another double win. That makes 8 Grand Prix wins out of 12 so far, plus 11 sprint victories. He now holds a massive 120-point lead in the standings over his own brother Alex Marquez. Bagnaia, meanwhile, is trailing by 168 points. Only once this season has Marquez been beaten in a dry Grand Prix without crashing, and that was at Silverstone, where he still managed to finish third after being down in 9th on lap 4. Marco Bezzecchi won that race, one of the very few moments in 2025 when Marc didn't look unbeatable. He did crash out while leading in Austin, finished 12th at Jerez after an early fall, and got passed by Johan Zarco at Le Mans while serving 2 long lap penalties. But that's about it. Every other time he's made it to the finish line, he's taken the win. With 70 wins in the Premier class, Marquez is now second only to Valentino Rossi's 89, and unless injury gets in the way, 2025 looks like the year he equals Rossi's record of 7 MotoGP titles. Marquez's current run of success with Ducati has Gigi not just thinking about what's happening now, but also looking back. Between 2017 and 2019, Andrea Dovizioso pushed Marquez harder than anyone else. Their 2017 title fight even went down to the final race. But each year, no matter how well Dovi rode, Marquez always came out on top.
Looking back now, the answer seems obvious. Even when Ducati had a competitive bike, Marquez was simply on another level. He could pull off wins that didn't seem possible. As Dovizioso himself said, in the past he did absurd things. He won races he really shouldn't have. Maybe now he's lost a bit of that, but with his experience, it's more than enough. And now that experience is paired with a bike that doesn't limit him. That combo is dangerous. While 2025 might go down as a year of dominance, Ducati's eyes are clearly on 2026. If they had gone with Jorge Martin for the factory seat, they might still have taken the title this season. But Brno proved something important. Marquez is more than just a guy who racks up points. He's Ducati's safety net. With Pecco struggling and the GP25 showing some clear weaknesses on certain tracks, Marquez gives the team a cushion. He buys time for Gigi and the engineers to figure things out without pressure. And in 2026, when the new MotoGP rules kick in, Marquez could be the deciding factor between Ducati continuing its reign or losing its grip completely. As one analyst put it, this year he's a luxury. Next year, he's a necessity. Even though Marquez is running the show right now, the fight behind him is heating up. Bezzecchi has brought Aprilia back into contention. Acosta's growing more confident on the KTM. Jorge Martin, now back from injury, looks sharp already at Brno. These are serious threats that Ducati can't afford to overlook. Without Marquez, 2026 could easily turn into a wide-open battle. With him, Ducati stays in control. But not everything is smooth sailing. Pecco has been vocal about his frustrations with the GP25, saying, "Compared to how I felt last year, we've lost something, and the others have improved." Gigi backed that up, admitting everyone else has stepped up their game. So I think it's time to stop thinking about holidays and get back to work. Even though Ducati is on top right now, they know the battle is far from finished. One storyline to keep an eye on is the situation with Fabio Di Giannantonio. His journey from losing his seat to Marquez to landing podiums and now being mentioned as a possible factory rider for 2027 is one of the most uplifting stories this season, but his spot isn't locked in just yet. Pedro Acosta is reportedly on the radar of Rossi's VR46 team. If that deal happens, Di Giannantonio might once again find himself in a tough position, fighting to stay on the grid. Still, if he keeps putting in strong performances, Ducati might seriously consider pairing him with Marquez, completing a remarkable full-circle moment
for the rider they once left out in the cold.
What 2025 has really shown is that Ducati didn't suddenly build a better bike. They already had a great one. What they didn't have, and spent years trying to find, was the one rider who could push it past its limits. Now they've got him, and even Gigi, who was once hesitant about bringing Marquez in, is finally saying what's been clear all along. They could never beat him because he was simply unbeatable. Until now, Ducati was always chasing from behind. Now they're out front because they finally put Marquez on their bike. And as Gigi looks ahead to what's next, he's no longer asking how to stop Marc Marquez, he's wondering how long they can hold on to him.